We work with 150 churches every week creating their social media content, and I've begun to notice a format of post that is predictably doing really, really well. So I want to show you exactly how to make this post in this quick tutorial, because there are some specific nuances that are easy to overlook. So what you're seeing here is a social media report for one of the churches that we work with. This report spans 120 days, and right now you're seeing the top 10 best performing posts by like count in that 4-month range. By the way, if you're curious, this report is being run inside of the social media scheduler that we use called Vista Social. Now, if I look at the top 10 posts for this church, here's what stands out to me. 7 of the top 10 by likes are sermon reels. This is the content that we're making for this church over at socialsermons.com. If you want to work with us directly, book a call with me there. Importantly, if I sort our top 10 posts by shares instead of likes, just look at how high the share count is on these sermon reels relative to the other posts. Shares is the metric that Adam Mosseri, the head of Instagram, says is the most important. And on these top 2 performing sermon reels, which are the same video, one published on Instagram, one on Facebook, we've got 3,000 total shares. This is the digital version of evangelism, where the gospel is presented in such a powerful way that people are sharing it directly one-to-one with others. Why am I talking about sermon reels? It is not the point of this video, but I do want to establish that these must still be the bedrock of any church social media calendar. Once we have that locked in, though, what can we do beyond that? Well, for this church, because we're making all of their sermon-related social content, it has freed up their creative team to create other kinds of posts. And the ones that we've seen perform exceptionally well, in fact, the only other type of post in the top 10 here, are worship reels. 3 of these posts made it into the top 10 for this church. We're seeing this across the board, though, with all types of churches that experiment with this live performance post format. What makes it so effective? Well, here's what we need to understand. Most importantly, nobody trusts anybody on social media these days. And you know what? Nor should we. In the discovery era of social that we currently occupy, more than half of the posts that we see on our feeds come from accounts that we did not choose to follow. Meaning, every time we see one of these new posts, we basically need to evaluate in milliseconds, is this person trustworthy? What are they trying to sell me? How genuine are they? It's an impossible task. So what happens over time is that we approach any and every post with this default posture of skepticism. It's our starting point. Someone makes a claim, where's the source? Person seems a little off, check the comments. And the more produced, scripted, and polished a post is, the more skeptical we are from the jump. There is, though, one type of post that slips past this filter: live performances. You see a worship reel like this, and you immediately intuit that you, the social media user, were not the primary audience. The original audience were the people in the room. And when we see a post like that, we can let our guard down. And what does that do? It translates to more views, more likes, and more engagement. So, of course, how do we create a post like this? Well, the generous folks at Cornerstone Community Church in Wildomar, California, were kind enough to welcome me on a Sunday morning. I brought my camera, I filmed the worship, and I went through the process of creating a handful of worship reels from that morning spent with the Cornerstone congregation to show you precisely how to do this and the exact camera settings you need to give it that extra little bit of sauce. Let me show you. So I arrive at Cornerstone and I ask the team to show me where they are comfortable with me setting up to film. Importantly, I want to film from the vantage point of the congregation. The perspective we want for this kind of post is the same one you'd get if you were at church worshiping on a Sunday. This will look different from your live stream. And part of the success with a post like this is the novelty of the POV. The camera that I'm shooting with is the Sony a7C II, and I've got that with an 85mm lens. I've got my aperture at f1.8. I want as much light coming into the sensor because of the darker sanctuary, but I also want as much shallow depth of field as I can muster with my camera and lens combination. I'm shooting at 24 frames per second. My shutter speed is set at 1/200, which is not the normal 1/50 you typically want if you're adhering to the 180-degree rule of cinematography. So why am I breaking this rule? Well, consider that shutter speed affects motion blur. Knowing this, it would stand to reason that activities containing a lot of fast motion could benefit from higher shutter speeds. To cut down on the amount of blur in the shot, make fast-moving people or objects look a little bit crisper. This has application with sports, but in a church context, where would we find fast motion? Well, the band on stage. And let's use drummers as our example here. What you're seeing right now is a drummer at church captured at a shutter speed of 1/50, next to the same drummer captured at a shutter speed of 1/200. Both clips filmed at 24 frames per second. What is the difference that we're seeing here? Well, because drummers are moving their limbs so quickly across the kit, if we crank up our shutter speed to capture less motion blur, it gives the movement a more pronounced and crisp and erratic look, which is, in this specific context, I think really cool. It brings this electric energy. You pair this with the unique perspective now of being amongst the congregation, filming vertically, cinematic frame rate of 24, and this all combined is the secret sauce to making this shot look especially unique and crispy. Now, do you have to do every single one of these things? No, the examples that I showed from the church at the top of this video did not do all of these things, and those posts were still all bangers, so don't stress. Once my camera settings are all configured how I want them, here's what I did in service. I filmed for the majority of the time of worship. I shot with image stabilization in active mode on my camera. Autofocus was on the whole time. What I was doing was really just waiting for the best moments in worship. And if you've ever served on a worship team, if you've led worship, if you've spent time in church, I'm confident that you will be able to pick these out. Specifically, if you're looking for exact moments that tend to translate best to social media, it is the two extremes, the quietest, most tender moments and the top of the mountain crescendos. Let's look at a few examples I got from the service. First, a top of the mountain crescendo. That's the plain version without text. We can dress this up in a couple of ways for social if we want to do more. First, a caption like this one, POV, it's Sunday. Or we can actually put the lyrics on the center of the screen. Simple enough. Or we can make those lyrics animated to match the energy of the clip itself, like this. And just to show you the difference between the look filmed vertically for social versus the live stream, here are both side by side. Let's talk about sound now. You know, this is obviously going to be the sticking point for a lot of churches. For me and this post, all I did was rip the audio from the church's live stream, sync it up with the scratch audio that I had recorded in my camera, and done. So from a tech perspective, it's really quite easy. It just comes down to the quality of your mix, of course. And to that end, I want to compare my church's mix to Cornerstone's to make a point. Reason being, my church is extremely lucky. We have a professional sound engineer on staff, so our mixes are very, very good. It's just one of our strengths. So let's listen back to back. First, my church, Central, doing Firm Foundation, followed by Cornerstone doing the same song. So hearing that back, you can discern the difference in clarity and crispness in the mix. And this is really not to throw shade on Cornerstone. If I recall correctly, they told me it was their first Sunday with a brand new sound system. I'm trying to make the exact opposite point, in fact, because basically, so long as your vocals are pretty close to hitting the notes that you need to, the mix does not need to be perfect. Not at all. In fact, it's part of the charm of this kind of post and why it slips past our skeptical filters. It's a live performance. We expect it to have imperfections. Now, I get it. If you listen back to your worship audio and you can tell, vocals are not hitting the notes they need to consistently enough, then perhaps this is the type of post that's a skip for you. But don't hold yourself to an impossible standard either, because it's the energy of the moment in service that carries this kind of post, not the perfect tuning of the vocals or the most excellent, pristine mix. To make this point, you also don't need to choose the high point of service. The quieter, tender moments work great for these kind of posts as well.
There's nothing, on church, better than you. There's nothing better than you. Lord, there's nothing is better
same thing with this post. You could add a caption, add the lyrics, keep it as is. What I love with these types of posts too is getting that bit of silhouette from the congregation worshiping in the shot. That outline adds depth, dimension. It looks great. And hey, I hope you give this post a try. Thanks again to the great people at Cornerstone for letting me stop in.